3 days ago, I canceled my daughter's $3 million trust fund while she was begging me for money. Dad, please, Claire sobbed into the phone. The gallery opportunity won't wait. I need 500,000 by Friday. I took a sip of coffee and said, What gallery, sweetheart? I thought Christmas was for real family only. Dead silence. Then, Dad, what do you mean? Check your trust fund, Claire. Oh, wait, there isn't one anymore. See, my daughter thought she could humiliate me in front of Connecticut's elite at Christmas dinner. Thought she could call me not real family while I stood there holding my dead wife's homemade cookies. Thought Daddy would just smile and keep writing checks. She was catastrophically wrong, because while she was busy being embarrassed by her blue-collar father, I was quietly transferring $3 million to kids who actually deserve it. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. Let me tell you about the Frank Mitchell who existed before that Christmas dinner. My name is Frank Mitchell, 54 years old, CEO of Mitchell Construction, a company worth $12 million that I built with my bare hands. After my coal miner father died in a cave-in when I was 16. But before I tell you about the business, let me tell you about Claire. She was 3 years old when she first came to a construction site with me. Sarah had the flu, and I couldn't find a babysitter. I strapped a tiny hard hat on her head and let her help by carrying screws in a little pink toolbox. She was so proud, telling everyone she was Daddy's construction helper. By the time she was 8, Claire could identify different types of steel beams and knew the difference between a Phillips head and a flathead screwdriver. She'd sit in my office after school doing homework while I reviewed blueprints. When I grow up, I'm going to build houses with you, Daddy, she'd say. I thought she meant it. When Sarah died of breast cancer 12 years ago, Claire was only 15. It was just me and her against the world. I remember the night after Sarah's funeral finding Claire crying in her room. Not the dramatic sobbing of a teenager, but the quiet, broken crying of someone who'd lost half their world. Dad, she whispered, what if people find out we're poor now? What if they treat me different? That broke my heart, because Claire was right. Without Sarah's teacher's salary, money was tight. The medical bills had wiped out most of our savings. But I made her a promise that night. Sweetheart, you'll never have to worry about money. I'll make sure you have every opportunity your mother wanted for you. And I kept that promise. Maybe I kept it too well. St. Catherine's Academy, $180,000 over 6 years. I worked 18-hour days to pay that tuition, skipping meals so Claire could afford the right clothes to fit in with her classmates. BMW for graduation, $65,000. I remember Claire crying with joy, hugging me in the dealership parking lot. You're the best dad in the world, she said. Manhattan condo. Down payment, $200,000. Claire called me sobbing with gratitude. Dad, I can't believe you did this for me. I love you so much. But somewhere between the private school and the elite friends and marrying Brett Hamilton, that grateful girl disappeared. The change started subtly. Claire stopped calling me Dad in public, switching to Frank. She stopped mentioning my work when people asked what I did, just vaguely saying I was in business. She stopped inviting me to events where I might meet her new friends. The worst part? I enabled it. Every time Claire seemed embarrassed by me, I tried harder to fit into her world. I bought expensive clothes I didn't feel comfortable in. I took etiquette lessons, for God's sake. 50-year-old man learning which fork to use for salad because his daughter was ashamed of his table manners. But Claire had no idea what I'd been planning since the IPO 6 months ago. The moment Mitchell Construction went public and my shares were suddenly worth millions, I called my estate attorney. Jim, I want to set up a trust fund for Claire. $3 million. I'd already picked out the presentation. Her 30th birthday party, in front of all her friends. I imagined her face when she realized everything I'd sacrificed was because I loved her. I imagined her finally understanding that her old man wasn't just some blue-collar embarrassment. I was her father, who'd moved mountains to give her opportunities. But last Tuesday night, 3 days before Christmas, I got a call that changed everything. It was Claire, and she was crying. but not sad crying, frustrated crying. Dad, I need you to do me a favor at Christmas dinner tomorrow. Of course, sweetheart. What do you need? I need you to tone it down a little. Brett's family is very traditional. They have certain expectations about how people behave. What do you mean, tone it down? Long pause. Just don't mention work stuff. Don't tell your construction stories, and maybe wear that navy suit I bought you, not one of your old ones. I should have hung up then. Should have realized what was coming. Instead, I said, Sure, Claire. Whatever makes you comfortable. That was my mistake. Making Claire's comfort more important than my own dignity, because what Claire didn't know was that her request hurt more than she could possibly understand. She was asking me to pretend to be someone else, to hide the very work that had paid for her entire life. But I agreed, because I loved her, because I thought love meant sacrifice without limit. I spent that night making Sarah's Christmas cookies, just like I had every year since she died. The recipe was written in Sarah's handwriting on a card stained with 12 years of use. As I mixed the dough, I found myself talking to Sarah's photo on the kitchen counter. I hope I'm doing this right, honey. I hope Claire remembers who she is. But Claire was about to prove she'd forgotten everything. The Hamilton family Christmas dinner was a masterclass in subtle psychological warfare. Their Greenwich estate was the kind of place that appeared in Architectural Digest. 200-year-old mansion worth $15 million, according to the property records I'd looked up later. Everything designed to intimidate people like me, people who'd earned their money instead of inheriting it. 12 guests, each one a monument to Connecticut's old money aristocracy. Senator Williams, who'd never worked a day outside politics. Judge Morrison, whose father had bought him his first judicial appointment. The Ashfords, whose great-grandfather had made his fortune selling opium in China, and whose descendants pretended they had always been respectable. I sat at the far end of the table, next to Brett's unmarried cousin, who spent the entire meal explaining why private jets were more environmentally responsible than commercial flights. The conversation flowed around me like I was furniture. They discussed their houses in the Hamptons, their children at Ivy League schools, their investment strategies designed to minimize tax obligations. When someone mentioned the difficulty of finding good help, Patricia Hamilton actually sighed and said, "The working class just doesn't have the same values they used to." I thought about Tony Rodriguez, who'd worked for me for 15 years without missing a single day. I thought about the 40 men and women who showed up to Mitchell Construction every morning at 6 a.m., ready to build something with their hands. But I said nothing. Then came the moment that changed everything. Claire had been drinking steadily throughout dinner, not enough to be obviously drunk, but enough to lower her inhibitions. I watched her transform into someone I didn't recognize. The way she held her wine glass, pinky extended. The way she laughed at Patricia Hamilton's jokes that weren't funny. The way she avoided making eye contact with me. When it came time for gifts, the Hamilton family exchanged presents that cost more than most families' annual income. Brett's gift to Claire was a diamond tennis bracelet worth at least $40,000. Patricia Hamilton received a Hermes handbag that she announced cost $18,000, as if the price tag was part of its appeal. My gift to Claire was wrapped in simple brown paper. Inside was a vintage silver frame containing a photo of Claire and Sarah from when Claire was 8. They were in our old kitchen, baking Christmas cookies together, both of them covered in flour, laughing at some joke I'd captured just as the camera clicked. Claire opened it, glanced at it for maybe 5 seconds, and set it aside without comment. "Thank you, Dad," she said, her voice flat and dismissive. But Patricia Hamilton picked up the frame, examined it like it was evidence in a criminal trial. "Oh my," she said loud enough for everyone to hear. "How quaint." The way she said quaint made it sound like a disease. That's when I realized this wasn't just about fitting in. This was about Claire actively choosing their approval over my dignity. But the real knife came during dessert. Patricia Hamilton was holding court, telling a story about their recent trip to their villa in Tuscany. How they'd met absolutely fascinating people. A count, a famous artist, a tech billionaire's son. It's so important, she said, looking directly at me, to surround yourself with people who share your background, your values, people who understand the responsibility that comes with real breeding. Claire nodded eagerly. Exactly. That's something I've really learned since marrying Brett. The importance of belonging. That word hit me like a physical blow. Belonging. Then Brett's father, William Hamilton, decided to join the conversation. Frank, he said, swirling his brandy, Claire tells us you've done quite well for yourself. Very American dream of you. But tell me, what's your exit strategy? Exit strategy? Well, surely a man of your background doesn't plan to work forever. When do you sell the business and enjoy the fruits of your labor? He was asking when I planned to disappear from Claire's life, when I'd take my working class money and fade into irrelevance. I enjoy what I do, I said carefully. I built the company to last. William laughed. How wonderfully noble. But surely you understand the value of legacy, of ensuring your family's future is secured? Legacy. As if everything I'd built didn't count because I'd built it myself. That's when Claire stood up. She tapped her crystal champagne flute, a sound that somehow commanded the entire table's attention, like she was about to make a toast. I just want to say, she began, her voice carrying across the suddenly silent room, how grateful I am to be surrounded by real family tonight. Real family. She looked directly at me when she said it. Dad, she continued, and I could hear the alcohol-fueled confidence in her voice. I know you mean well, but Christmas is for real family only, people who actually belong here. The silence was suffocating. 12 pairs of eyes fixed on me, waiting for my reaction. Claire wasn't finished. Maybe next year you should spend Christmas with your work crew instead. I'm sure they'd appreciate your homemade cookies. She emphasized homemade cookies like it was an insult to civilized society. Patricia Hamilton's smile could have powered the Christmas tree. Brett nodded approval. Senator Williams actually chuckled into his napkin. I stood up slowly, folded my napkin with deliberate care. You're absolutely right, Claire, I said, my voice perfectly calm. Christmas should be for people who understand loyalty, people who remember where they came from. I picked up my coat. Thank you for the lesson. It's one I'll never forget. As I walked toward the door, I heard Patricia Hamilton whisper to her husband, well, that was appropriately dramatic. They all laughed, including Claire. I drove home through empty Christmas night streets, my hands shaking with something I hadn't felt in years. Pure, focused rage. December 26th, 3 a.m. I sat in my kitchen, staring at Sarah's photo and wrestling with a decision that would change everything. The house felt enormous and empty. Same kitchen where Claire used to do homework while I cooked dinner. Same living room where we'd watch Christmas movies every December. Same walls covered with photos of a happy family that apparently no longer existed. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Claire's voice. Christmas is for real family only. By sunrise, I'd made 17 cups of coffee and reached a conclusion that terrified me. My daughter had become someone I didn't recognize. Someone who valued status over substance, appearance over authenticity. But before I did something irreversible, I needed to talk to someone who'd known both versions of Claire. At 7 a.m., I called Tony Rodriguez. Boss, everything okay? It's pretty early. Tony, I need to ask you something. Do you remember Claire when she was younger? When she used to come to the construction sites? Of course I remember. Sweet kid, always polite. Always asking questions about the work. Why? I told him about Christmas dinner. The whole story. Tony listened without interrupting, which is one of the things I've always appreciated about him. When I finished, there was a long silence. Boss, Tony finally said, that doesn't sound like the Claire I knew. It's not. That's the problem. So what are you thinking? I took a deep breath. I'm thinking about canceling her trust fund. Another silence, longer this time. That's a lot of money, Frank. $3 million. Jesus, and you do what with it? Scholarship fund for kids like Miguel, kids who understand what sacrifice looks like. Tony was quiet for so long I thought the call had dropped. Tony? You there? Yeah, I'm here. Just, Frank, that's your daughter we're talking about. Is it? Because the daughter I raised would never humiliate her father in front of strangers. The daughter I raised understood that family loyalty goes both ways. People change, boss. Maybe she just needs time. 15 years, Tony. 15 years since Sarah died, and I've been giving Claire time. Time to grow up. Time to appreciate what she has. Time to remember where she came from. I stood up, started pacing around the kitchen. You know what I realized last night? I've been enabling her. Every time Claire showed disrespect, I made excuses. Every time she chose her new friends over her old family, I tried harder to win her approval. Frank, I'm done trying to earn love from someone who sees me as an embarrassment. I'm done pretending that blood automatically equals loyalty. Tony sighed. What does your gut tell you? That was the question, wasn't it? What did my gut tell me? My gut told me that Sarah would be heartbroken to see what Claire had become. My gut told me that continuing to reward bad behavior wasn't love, it was cowardice. But my gut also told me that canceling the trust fund would permanently damage our relationship, maybe destroy it entirely. My gut tells me that the best gift I can give Claire is consequences. Real consequences for real choices. And if she never forgives you? I thought about that. Claire, cutting me out of her life completely. No more phone calls, no more awkward family dinners, no more chances to rebuild what we'd lost. Tony, let me ask you something. If Miguel treated you the way Claire treated me, what would you do? I'd be heartbroken. But would you keep rewarding him with money and gifts? Long pause. No, I wouldn't. That conversation lasted 2 hours. By the end, Tony understood my decision, even if he didn't entirely agree with it. At 9:47 a.m., I called Jim Morrison. Jim, it's Frank. I need to cancel Claire's trust fund. Frank, I have to advise against this. Family estrangements are rarely permanent. You might regret this decision. I might. But I'll regret continuing to enable her behavior even more. Where do you want the money to go? The Sarah Elizabeth Mitchell Memorial Scholarship Foundation. Full scholarships for working-class kids studying construction and engineering. Jim was quiet for a moment. Your wife would have loved that. That's the point, Jim. This is what Sarah would want. Help kids who appreciate opportunities instead of taking them for granted. I'll have the paperwork ready by noon. After I hung up, I sat in Sarah's favorite chair and whispered to her photo. I hope I'm doing the right thing, honey. I hope this teaches her what we should have taught her years ago. But I wasn't prepared for how quickly Claire would test my resolve. The call came exactly 3 days later, just like I'd predicted. December 29th, 2:15 p.m. I was in my office reviewing blueprints when Claire's name appeared on my phone. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Hi, sweetheart. How was the rest of your Christmas? Dad, hi. Good. It was good. Listen, I was wondering if we could meet for coffee sometime this week. I have something exciting to share with you. Exciting. That was Claire's code word for expensive. I'm pretty busy with the new shopping center project, but I could probably fit you in. What's this about? Well, I could hear the practiced enthusiasm in her voice, the tone she used when she was about to ask for something big. Brett and I have been talking, and we think it's time for me to pursue my passion project. Which passion project is that? The art gallery I mentioned last month. Dad, I found the perfect space. 2,500 square feet on Spring Street in Soho. It's exactly what I've been dreaming of. Of course it was. Claire's dreams always seem to require other people's money. Tell me more about this gallery. It's going to showcase emerging artists, host cultural events, maybe even do some art education programs for underprivileged kids. She threw in that last part like she thought it would appeal to my charitable instincts. Sounds expensive. Well, that's the thing. The opportunity won't wait. The previous tenant was a boutique that did really well, but they're relocating to Los Angeles. The landlord wants to move fast. How fast? I need to put down first month's rent and security deposit by January 5th. That's $24,000. Then there's renovation costs, initial inventory, marketing. I did the math in my head. So you're talking about, what, 400,000? 500? Closer to 500, but Dad, think of it as an investment. The Hamilton name opens doors in the art world, and with your business connections, we could really make this something special. My business connections? Interesting how she valued those when she needed money. Claire, where exactly do you think this money's going to come from? Well, long pause. I know you've been planning for my future. Patricia mentioned that her brother-in-law saw some paperwork with my name on it at First National. There it was. The Hamilton Family Spy Network had discovered the trust fund. You've been investigating my finances? Not investigating. It's just, Patricia thought it was sweet that you were setting something aside for my 30th birthday. She mentioned it might be enough to cover the gallery startup costs. Sweet. Patricia Hamilton thought my financial planning was sweet. And you want me to advance money from this theoretical fund? Exactly. Just as a loan against my inheritance. I'd pay it back with interest once the gallery starts turning a profit. I leaned back in my chair, looking out at the construction site where 40 people were building something real with their hands. Honest work. Tangible results. Claire, let me ask you something. Do you remember what you said to me at Christmas dinner? Silence. Then, Dad, if this is about Christmas, I was just trying to fit in. You know how Brett's family is. They have certain expectations. Expectations. You understand, right? I didn't want to cause any awkwardness for anyone. So you decided to cause awkwardness for me instead. That's not... Dad, you're being dramatic. Can we please focus on the gallery? This is about my future we're talking about. My future, not our future. Not something we were building together. Her future, funded by my sacrifice. Tell me about your business plan. My what? Your business plan. Revenue projections, operating costs, market analysis. You know, the things actual businesses need to survive. Well, Brett's mother knows several gallery owners. They've given me some informal advice. What kind of advice? That location is everything, and Spring Street is perfect for attracting the right clientele. The right clientele. People like the Hamilton family, who measured art's value by its price tag instead of its meaning. Claire, what happens if the gallery fails? Art galleries have a 90% failure rate in the first 2 years. It won't fail. Brett's connections in the art world. What about my connections? I know contractors, architects, real estate developers throughout the tri-state area. People who actually understand business fundamentals. Dad, that's different. Brett's family knows the cultural scene, and I know the world where people work for their money instead of inheriting it. I could hear her getting frustrated. Look, I don't understand why you're being difficult about this. You can afford it, the company's doing well, you've got the IPO money, and honestly, it's not like you have anyone else to spend it on. Like I was some lonely old man whose only purpose was funding her dreams. Claire, I want you to think very carefully about your next words, because what you say in the next 30 seconds is going to determine whether I help you or not. What do you mean? I mean, I want you to tell me why you think you deserve $500,000 from a man you publicly humiliated 3 days ago. Long silence. When she finally spoke, her voice had an edge I'd never heard before. Because I'm your daughter, and daughters are supposed to be able to count on their fathers. Because you've spent my whole life telling me I could achieve anything, and now when I finally find my passion, you're making me beg for support. She was right about one thing. I had spent her whole life telling her she could achieve anything. But I'd forgotten to teach her that achievement requires effort, not just ambition. Claire, I'm going to hang up now and think very carefully about your request. While I'm thinking, I want you to think about something too. What? Whether the person who told me I wasn't real family deserves real family support. I hung up before she could respond. Then I called Jim Morrison to make sure the trust fund cancellation was irreversible. But Claire wasn't done fighting. January 3rd, 10:30 a.m. Claire showed up at my office like a woman on fire. My secretary Linda buzzed the intercom. Mr. Mitchell, your daughter's here. She seems very upset. Through my office door, I could hear Claire's voice, sharp and demanding. I don't need an appointment to see my own father. Send her in, I said. Claire burst through the door, wearing a coat that probably cost more than Linda's monthly salary. Her face was flushed with anger and something else, desperation. Behind her, I noticed Tony Rodriguez in the hallway with blueprints under his arm. He looked uncomfortable, clearly having overheard Claire's tone with Linda. Dad, we need to talk, right now. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. Have a seat. I'll stand. She positioned herself in front of my desk like a prosecutor about to deliver a closing argument. I called First National yesterday. Oh? About my trust fund. They said it doesn't exist. They said it never existed. I leaned back in my chair, studying my daughter's face. There was something different about her, a hardness that hadn't been there even at Christmas dinner. Interesting. Don't play games with me, Dad? Patricia Hamilton's brother-in-law saw documentation. $3 million with my name on it. Where is it? I thought about the little girl who used to sit in this same chair, swinging her legs because her feet couldn't reach the floor, asking me to explain what blueprints meant. That child had been curious, not demanding, grateful, not entitled. You're right and you're wrong, Claire. Her eyes narrowed. What does that mean? The trust fund did exist. Your name was on it. $3 million, accessible when you turn 30, was on it. Past tense, sweetheart. I canceled it December 28th. The color drained from her face completely. For a moment, she looked like the lost 15-year-old who'd cried the night after her mother's funeral. You... what? I dissolved the trust and redirected the funds. You can't do that. That money was mine. I heard footsteps pause in the hallway. Tony was definitely listening now. Actually, Claire, that money was never yours. It was my money, held in a trust I created, which I had full authority to modify or cancel before your 30th birthday. Where did you put it? I opened my desk drawer and pulled out the Scholarship Foundation documents, slid them across the desk to her. The Sarah Elizabeth Mitchell Memorial Scholarship Foundation. Full scholarships for working-class kids studying construction and engineering. Claire snatched the papers, scanning them frantically. $3 million. Memorial Fund. Working-class students. She looked up, eyes blazing. You gave my inheritance to strangers? I gave it to people who deserve it. Deserve it? I'm your daughter. Are you? Because at Christmas dinner you made it very clear that I'm not your real family. Tony appeared in the doorway. Sorry, boss. Didn't mean to interrupt. Come in, Tony, I said. Claire, I'd like you to meet Tony Rodriguez. He's been my foreman for 15 years. Claire barely glanced at him. Dad, this is a private conversation. Actually, Tony should hear this. His son Miguel just became the first recipient of the scholarship fund. Full ride to State University engineering program. Tony's weathered face broke into a huge grin. Mr. Mitchell, Miguel's been walking on air since we told him. Kid actually cried with happiness. Claire spun around to face Tony, and I saw something ugly flash across her features. Your son is getting my money? The smile vanished from Tony's face. He studied Claire for a moment, taking in her expensive clothes, her imperious tone, her complete lack of gratitude or grace. Lady, Tony said quietly, that money's going to a kid who's worked construction every summer since he was 14. A kid who studies by flashlight after 12-hour workdays because we can't always afford to keep the electricity on. I don't care what your kid does. Claire, my voice cut through the air like a blade. Stop talking. Right now. She turned back to me, breathing hard. Tony, I said, never taking my eyes off Claire. What do you think of someone who calls their father not real family in front of a room full of strangers? Tony looked at Claire with something approaching disgust. I think that person threw away something precious and doesn't deserve to get it back. What happened next showed me a side of Claire I'd hoped never existed. She didn't leave my office defeated. She left planning a war. Over the next 10 days, I started getting strange phone calls. Business associates asking if everything was okay at home. My accountant wondering if there were family financial issues he should know about. Even my barber mentioned hearing rumors about problems at Mitchell Construction. Claire was working her network, and her network had reach. It started with Patricia Hamilton's social circle. Every Tuesday, Patricia lunches with the wives of Connecticut's most powerful men. Judges, senators, business leaders, all married to women who had nothing better to do than dissect other people's lives. Linda brought me the first piece of evidence on January 8th, a screenshot from Patricia Hamilton's Facebook page, heartbroken to witness a father using financial manipulation to control his adult daughter. When a parent weaponizes money against their own child, it's emotional abuse, pure and simple. Praying for healing in this broken family. Toxic parents had family first and unconditional love. The post had 63 comments, all from Greenwich Society women expressing sympathy for Claire and outrage at my controlling behavior. But Claire was just getting started. Brett's cousin Jennifer worked at the Greenwich Gazette. Suddenly there was interest in profiling Mitchell Construction, not for our business success, but for what Jennifer called the human interest angle. Mr. Mitchell, we'd love to explore the family dynamics of successful entrepreneurs. How does wealth affect family relationships? What happens when business success creates personal conflicts? I declined the interview, but that didn't stop them from publishing a thinly veiled piece about nouveau riche narcissism in Greenwich County. Then came the social ostracism. I'd been a member of Fairfield Country Club for 8 years, not because I enjoyed golf, but because Claire had suggested it would be good for business networking. Every Saturday morning, I played with the same foursome successful men who'd always treated me with respect. Suddenly, they were all too busy to play. My usual table at the club restaurant was perpetually reserved. The maitre d', who'd known me for years, suddenly couldn't make eye contact. The whisper campaign was systematic and brutal, but the most painful attack came from an unexpected source. January 12th, 11 p.m. Brett called me directly. "Frank, we need to talk." "It's late, Brett. This can't wait." "It's about Claire." I could hear tension in his voice, but also something else. Calculation. "What about her?" "She's struggling. This situation with the trust fund is affecting our marriage." "How so?" "She's been talking to attorneys, asking about asset division, prenups, inheritance law. Frank, she thinks I only married her for her money." "Did you?" The pause lasted long enough to answer the question. "That's not the point," Brett finally said. "The point is, Claire is talking about making this public. Financial documents, family history, everything. That's not good for anyone's reputation." "What kind of financial documents?" "Bank records, tax returns, business dealings. She's hired a private investigator to examine your company's finances, looking for anything that might prove you cut her off out of malice rather than principle." "A private investigator. My daughter was actually trying to destroy me professionally because I wouldn't fund her art gallery." "Brett, let me ask you something honestly. Are you calling because you're worried about Claire's emotional well-being, or because you're worried about how this affects the Hamilton family reputation? Can't it be both?" "Here's what I think happened. I think when you were dating Claire, she mentioned a significant inheritance. I think that number factored into your decision to marry her, and now that the money's gone, you're having second thoughts. Frank, and I think your mother sent you to call me, because Patricia Hamilton is realizing that her public support of Claire makes the Hamilton family look vindictive and petty." "That's not..." "Tell me something, Brett. In the 2 years you've been married to my daughter, have you ever seen her work a full-time job? Have you ever seen her stick with anything difficult when it required real effort?" Silence. "Because I have. I've watched Claire quit piano lessons, ballet classes, college internships, and volunteer work the moment any of them required genuine commitment. She's trying to find herself. She's 27 years old, Brett. If she hasn't found herself by now, maybe the problem isn't that she needs more money. Maybe the problem is that she's never had to develop character. So what happens now?" I thought about that. My daughter, working with private investigators to dig up dirt on the man who'd sacrificed everything for her future. Now Claire learns what consequences look like. Real consequences in the real world, where daddy's money can't fix every problem. The final confrontation was coming. January 13th. Time to build an irrefutable case. I spent the weekend in my home office surrounded by 18 years of financial records. Every bank statement, every canceled check, every wire transfer. Building a paper trail that would make any reasonable person understand exactly what I'd sacrificed for Claire. But first, I needed to confront something I'd been avoiding. My own role in creating this monster. I found the photo album Sarah had kept pictures of Claire from birth to high school graduation. Page after page of a little girl who'd been the center of our universe. Maybe too much the center. There was 8-year-old Claire at the construction site, wearing a tiny hard hat, beaming with pride as she helped me review blueprints. 10-year-old Claire at the science fair, presenting a project about how buildings stay standing. 12-year-old Claire making cookies with Sarah, flower in her hair, laughing at some shared joke. When had that child disappeared? I called Tony Rodriguez. Tony, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be brutally honest. Shoot, boss. Did I spoil Claire? Did I give her too much? Too easily? Long pause. You want the truth? Always. Yeah, Frank. You did. After Sarah died, you tried to be both parents. You gave Claire everything she asked for because you were scared of being the bad guy. You were scared she'd lose both parents if you ever said no. That hit me like a sledgehammer, because Tony was right. Miguel's different, Tony continued. He's had to work for everything. Makes him appreciate opportunities instead of expecting them, which brought me to my evidence. Education Investment Analysis, St. Catherine's Academy, 2009 to 2015. $30,000 per year times 6 years equals $180,000. Advanced classes, study abroad programs, extra tutoring, NYU tuition and expenses, 2015 to 2019. $64,000 per year times 4 years equals $256,000. Manhattan apartment senior year because dorms were beneath her. $36,000. Study abroad semester in Florence. $25,000. Post-graduation support, BMW 328. I graduation gift, $65,000, still have the purchase agreement. Manhattan condo, down payment, $200,000, wire transfer receipt, dated March 15th, 2022. Wedding expenses, flowers, photography away, rehearsal dinner, $45,000. Monthly allowance for 2 years, $2,000 per month, times 24 months equals $48,000. Grand total, $855,000, nearly $900,000 invested in someone who now claimed I wasn't real family. But I needed perspective, so I called Miguel Rodriguez. Miguel, can you come to my office Monday morning? I want to talk to you about something. Monday, 9 a.m. Miguel sat across from my desk, work boots still dusty from his weekend construction job. 16 years old, but his eyes held the kind of wisdom that comes from genuine hardship. Mr. Mitchell, my dad says you want to talk about the scholarship? Tell me about your plans, Miguel. Well, sir, I want to study structural engineering. Graduate debt-free, then come back and work for Mitchell Construction. But not just as a worker. I want to design the buildings we construct. What about after that? Miguel's face lit up with quiet determination. Eventually, I want to start my own firm. Design affordable housing for working families. My mom cleans those fancy office buildings downtown, and she always says beautiful architecture shouldn't be just for rich people. I pulled out Miguel's high school transcript. 4 years of straight A's while working 20 hours a week. Miguel, what do you think about people who have everything handed to them but still complain it's not enough? He considered this carefully. My dad says some people are born on third base but think they hit a triple. Says it makes them forget the game has rules. Smart kid. Wiser than my daughter had ever been. I'm going to tell you something, Miguel. This scholarship exists because someone I love forgot to be grateful. Promise me you'll never forget where you came from. Never, sir. My family sacrificed too much for me to waste this opportunity. After Miguel left, I called Jim Morrison. Jim, I want to expand the scholarship program. 10 recipients every year. Frank, that's $500,000 annually. I can afford it. And Jim, I want documentation of every recipient. Transcripts, work history, family background. I want people to understand who actually deserves help. That afternoon, Tony brought me something that broke my heart and strengthened my resolve simultaneously. Boss, Miguel wrote you a letter. The handwriting was careful, each word deliberate. Dear Mr. Mitchell, my father told me about your daughter. I'm sorry she hurt you. I want you to know that I will never waste this chance you've given me. I will study hard, work hard, and make you proud. My mother cried when we told her about the scholarship, not sad tears, but happy tears. She said it proves that good things happen to people who never give up. I promise to honor your wife's memory by becoming the kind of man who helps others the way you've helped me. Thank you for believing in me when I couldn't afford to believe in myself. Respectfully, Miguel Rodriguez. I sat in my office holding that letter, thinking about the contrast between Miguel's gratitude and Claire's entitlement, between a boy who understood sacrifice and a woman who'd forgotten its value. That evening, I called Tony one more time. Tony, tomorrow's the scholarship announcement ceremony. I want you and Miguel there. Of course, boss. Wouldn't miss it. There's something else. Claire might show up. She's been building a case against me, trying to make me look like the villain. Frank, anyone with eyes can see who the villain is in this story. If she comes, if she makes a scene, I want you to let her. I want everyone to see exactly who she's become. The final confrontation was 24 hours away. January 15th, 2 p.m., the day my daughter destroyed herself on live television. Mitchell Construction's main conference room had been transformed for the scholarship announcement. 25 folding chairs arranged theater style, facing a small podium. Local media present: Greenwich Gazette, Fairfield County Business Journal, Channel 8. News, but the real audience was the 10 scholarship recipients and their families. Kids like Miguel Rodriguez, whose parents had worked multiple jobs just to keep food on the table. Families who understood that opportunity was a privilege, not a birthright. I was 8 minutes into my opening remarks, explaining the scholarship criteria, when the door burst open. Claire strode in like she owned the place, Brett trailing behind her looking mortified. She wore a black designer dress and the kind of righteous fury that only comes from believing you're the victim of great injustice. The room went silent. "Don't stop on my account, Dad," she said, voice dripping with sarcasm. "Please continue explaining to everyone how generous you are with money that should belong to your own daughter." The Channel 8 cameraman immediately swung his lens toward her. This was about to become very public, very fast. I looked at her calmly. "Claire, how thoughtful of you to join us." She stepped into the center of the room, positioning herself where everyone could see her. This was clearly a planned performance. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said, addressing the confused families, "I'd like you to meet my daughter, Claire Mitchell Hamilton. Claire, would you like to explain to these hard-working families why you're here?" She lifted her chin defiantly. "I'm here because my father is trying to rewrite history. He's painting himself as some kind of saint while financially abusing his own daughter." Miguel's mother, Maria Rodriguez, looked genuinely confused. She'd come here to celebrate her son's achievement, not witness a family destruction. "Financial abuse?" I repeated quietly. "Tell everyone here what I've given you over the past 18 years, Claire." "That's not the point. Humor me. Tell these families how much I've invested in your future." Claire's face flushed. She hadn't expected me to go on the offensive. "Education expenses," I said, walking to the easel where I'd prepared a presentation. "St. Catherine's Academy, $180,000. NYU, $256,000. Post-graduation gifts, $310,000. Monthly support, $48,000. Total investment in my daughter's future, $855,000. The room was dead silent. These were families where $800 represented a month's groceries. "And 3 weeks ago," I continued, "my daughter stood up at a Christmas dinner and told 12 people that I wasn't real family. She suggested I spend holidays with my work crew instead of embarrassing her in front of her elite friends. Tony Rodriguez stood up from his seat in the back. Boss, you don't need to... Actually, Tony, everyone should know the truth. I turned back to Claire. So tell me, sweetheart, what exactly did you do to earn that $855,000? I'm your daughter, she shouted, finally losing her composure. Being someone's daughter is a relationship, not a job description. Maria Rodriguez, Miguel's mother, slowly stood up. She was maybe 5 feet tall, with hands calloused from years of cleaning office buildings. When she spoke, her accented English carried more dignity than Claire's Ivy League vocabulary. Excuse me, Maria said quietly. I don't understand something. The room turned to her. This lady is your daughter, Mr. Mitchell? Yes. And you paid for her school, her car, her house? I did. And she told you that you are not family? The simple question hung in the air like a moral judgment. That's right? Maria shook her head sadly, looking at Claire with something between pity and disgust. My Miguel works construction after school every day, comes home covered in dust, so tired he can barely eat dinner. But every night he says, "Thank you, Mama. Thank you, Papa." Never forgets who sacrifices for him. She faced Claire directly. You had everything, but you complained. My son has nothing, but he is grateful. This is why Mr. Mitchell helps children who deserve help. The Channel 8 reporter stepped forward with her microphone. Ms. Mitchell-Hamilton, how do you respond to that? Claire's mask finally slipped completely. This is ridiculous. These people don't understand what it's like to have opportunities, to have expectations placed on you. What opportunities? Miguel suddenly stood up, his 16-year-old voice cutting through Claire's excuses. Ma'am, you had a BMW for graduation. I've been saving for 3 years to buy a used Honda. You lived in Manhattan for free. I sleep on my brother's couch because we can't afford a bigger apartment. Claire stared at this teenager, this kid who would never have her advantages, and something ugly twisted her features. What would you know about real pressure? You're just a construction worker's son. The room erupted. Tony Rodriguez shot to his feet. Lady, that construction worker's son has better grades than you probably ever had, more character than you'll ever develop, and enough class to never humiliate his father in public. Other parents were standing now, voices raised in defense of their children. Maria Rodriguez was crying, not from sadness, but from outrage at watching someone insult her son's worth. I raised my hand for silence. Everyone, please, sit down. The room gradually quieted, but the anger was palpable. I walked over to Miguel's scholarship certificate on the display table, picked it up. Miguel Rodriguez, I read aloud, 4.0 GPA while working 20 hours per week. Plans to study structural engineering and design affordable housing for working families. Son of parents who taught him that respect is earned, not inherited. I looked directly at Claire. This young man represents everything admirable about America. Hard work, gratitude, loyalty to family. The Channel 8 reporter stepped closer. Mr. Mitchell, what would you say to parents watching this who are struggling with entitled children? I thought about that question carefully. I'd say that love without boundaries isn't love, it's enabling. I spent 18 years giving my daughter everything she wanted instead of teaching her to appreciate what she had. That was my mistake. I held up Miguel's certificate. But sometimes the best thing you can do for someone you love is show them what consequences look like. Show them that actions have results and respect has to be earned. And your daughter? I looked at Claire, who stood there realizing she'd just humiliated herself in front of cameras and strangers. My daughter made her choice 3 weeks ago. She chose social status over family loyalty. She chose other people's approval over her father's love. Those choices have consequences. The reporter turned to Claire. Ms. Mitchell-Hamilton, any final words? Claire looked around the room at the faces staring back at her. Working-class families whose children had earned something she'd been given freely, but never appreciated. This isn't over, she said quietly. Yes, it is, I replied. It's been over since Christmas dinner. You just didn't realize it yet. Claire turned and walked out. Brett hurrying after her. Through the window, I could see them arguing in the parking lot. I turned back to the families. Now, let's celebrate these remarkable young people who understand what gratitude looks like. The applause that followed wasn't just for the scholarship recipients. It was for the lesson everyone had just witnessed. 6 months later, the world looked completely different. Miguel Rodriguez started at State University. In September, full scholarship secured. Every month, I get a handwritten progress report, grades, activities, goals. Kid maintains a 4.0 while working part-time in the campus engineering lab. His latest letter mentioned designing a prototype for low-cost, sustainable housing. For families like mine, he wrote. The other 9 scholarship recipients are thriving similarly. Future engineers, architects, project managers, all kids who understand that opportunity is earned, not inherited. Claire's story took a different path. The Channel 8 footage went viral within hours. 2 million views and climbing. The comments section became a referendum on entitled behavior and parental boundaries. Most weren't sympathetic to Claire. Brett filed for divorce in March. The official reason was irreconcilable differences. But Tony heard through the construction network that the Hamilton family had given Brett an ultimatum: divorce Claire or forfeit his trust fund. The art gallery never materialized. Turns out investors don't fund people who publicly attack their own families on television. Claire found work as an assistant manager at a Westport boutique. $35,000 a year less than her monthly allowance used to be. She had to sell the Manhattan condo, move to a studio apartment in Stamford. Real-world mathematics for real-world choices. But 3 weeks ago, something unexpected happened. I was leaving my office late when I found Claire sitting in her car in the parking lot. She'd been waiting for 2 hours. "Dad," she said when I approached her window, "can we talk?" We sat in my office for 3 hours. She cried real tears this time, not the manipulative kind I'd seen before. She talked about the bullying she'd endured at St. Catherine's for being new money, how she desperately wanted to fit in with Brett's family, to finally belong somewhere. "I became someone I hate," she whispered, "someone Mom would be ashamed of." I didn't offer to restore the trust fund. I didn't promise to solve her problems. But I listened. "If you want to rebuild our relationship," I told her, "it starts with actions, not words. Respect is earned daily." She nodded, understanding finally that love requires accountability. It's a beginning, maybe.